We got a good response. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Maybe once everybody is here, we can do a quick around the room to introduce each other to, or introduce yourselves. I believe, Eileen, did you say there were something like 17 people who responded positively?
We had 17 people responded saying they either definitely come or try to make it.
Okay. Okay, that's great. If those of you who just jumped on, who don't know, I'm Pamela Waldrop. I'm one of the photographers at the gallery and president of the gallery. And Eileen?
I'm the treasurer of fotofoto and the Zoom coordinator right now.
And wears a whole lot of other hats. So, and also one of the very talented photographers at the gallery. And I'm going to do a longer introduction to Pat as soon as everybody is here.
I'm looking at now, I'm trying to put the names and the people together, whether we have the artists or just, so raise your hand. Who's one of the artists in the show? Oh, okay.
Great. That's great. You know, guys, while we're waiting, I will tell you that
A lot of people coming in right now.
we prepared a PowerPoint presentation, and both Eileen, well, all three of us have it so that everybody can refamiliarize ourselves with your works again. I'm just so pleased that we're able to make this happen, even though the show is no longer up. So we'll wait a little longer. I hope
Hi.
that,
It's Ellen.
hello?
Somebody's on
Ellen
the phone.
Gould is on the phone.
Who is this?
Ellen
Oh, hi.
Gould.
Hi, Ellen. Hi.
Eileen?
Yes.
This is Pam, but that was
Oh,
Eileen.
Pam. Hi. Hi. I'm
Hi.
on the phone. I'm at somebody's house, and this is the only thing I could do.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. I'm so glad.
Hi, it's Scott Schneider,
hello there.
Toxic Nature Studios.
Great. Eileen, should we wait
Yeah,
maybe 4 minutes and then we can like go around and everybody can introduce themselves?
yeah, we're having, exactly.
Pardon me?
Yes, let's wait a little bit. We have people joining.
Okay. While we're waiting, how many of you had to contend with the horrible weather we've had in the last couple of days in the Northeast? Yeah, hopefully everybody's okay. Where I live on the North Shore of Long Island, we had tornado warnings. Pretty scary.
The lightning was unbelievable last night.
You're in
I've
Connecticut.
never seen anything like it.
Oh, scary.
I had a big tree down.
Oh, no.
Oh,
You're in Huntington, right, Scott?
Yes,
are you okay?
I'm fine. My
Is everything the
my pool
property
cover
okay?
is not fine, however.
Oh,
But you know, everybody's healthy, so that's all that matters.
That's good. It's good. Hopefully we will have some good weather for a while before the next hurricane.
Seemed pretty nice today.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Humidity is gone, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh,
Lovely.
hi. How are you, Paul?
Good. How are you, Pam? Nice to see you all.
I'm good. Love the caricature of you behind you.
Oh, you can see that back there in the dark.
Yes.
Wow. Good eyes.
Very nice.
Yeah, thanks. I actually started teaching a new class today at Five Towns College in comic art. And I started with that caricature on my opening slideshow, which is by Tom Richmond, a Mad Magazine artist.
Very cool. What's this?
wow.
What, me worried?
What me worried, yeah.
How
Alfred E. Newman.
are you back with face-to-face classes?
Yes.
Everything? Okay.
for now. You never know week to week these days what's going on, but
Yes.
fortunately, everyone is wearing masks still. We were hoping we'd be past that at this point, but it is what it is right now.
Eileen, while we're waiting, I'll repeat this, but for those of you who are here already, I know many people had inquired about the availability of the prints from the Phone-Ography show, and also about posters. And what we're putting together is what it would cost if you wanted to get a poster to cover, shipping and handling. And, after discussion, we all kind of agreed that the print that was in on exhibit would be included as part of your exhibition fee, your submission fee. So we would just need, to figure out if you had to be shipped, like what it would cost to ship it to you, or if you're local, could you come by and pick it up? Okay.
Oh, that's
So
really great.
we'll be sending out an email with more details. Are many of you interested in getting your prints or getting posters?
Oh, yes,
Yes,
yes.
sure.
Okay, great, because there's a couple different versions of the poster available. And like I said, that you paid an entry fee, so.
The poster is about the
Yeah,
exhibit,
but
I
we
guess,
have-
right?
Yes, it is. There's two versions. There's one that has it's like a contact sheet type version that has everybody on it. And then the other one has the 3 winners and the 2 best, honorable mentions on it. So there's 2 posters. Did someone else have a question?
We just had 2
No,
people.
I pay whatever I need to pay. I mean,
Okay.
please, you do such a great job. I'm happy to contribute.
Oh, thank you. Should this be the time that I do my donation?
Get them while they're hot, Pam.
Yeah. And we are a not-for-profit and always gladly accept donations in the form of checks, PayPal, and by going to our website at fotofotogallery.org. There is actually a place where you can donate, should you be so inclined. Eileen, just keep me posted on the number of people and what you think.
We have 17 people right now. 2 people just joined.
Okay, how many
And
people
it's-
do we have so far?
We have 17 right now, including the 3 of us here. And so I think we should start. What do you think?
I think so. Okay, so what I would like to do is just introduce myself first, and then maybe if all of you could just give your name, so that I think it's always nice to be able to speak to a person with a name. Again, I'm Pamela Waldrop. I'm the president of our photographic collective, Fotofoto Gallery. And I'm also the person who does a bazillion Facebook and posts.
Sorry, Pam.
It's true, I do. So you're well represented. Larry Chatterton, who is not here, is our webmaster. And Eileen, in addition to her other responsibilities, also is the creator of our Fotofoto Gallery YouTube channel. So Eileen, if you want to tell everybody who you are. Eileen,
I'm sorry. What do
could you introduce yourself to the group?
you want me to say, Pam? I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, I'll introduce her. Eileen is also, she is the treasurer at Fotofoto Gallery, in addition to also being a competition coordinator. She also sets up Eventbrite for the workshops that are coming up. She's created our YouTube channel, and pretty
We'll
much
talk about the workshop. You can talk about the current workshop we have going on this month, right?
Do you want to tell them about that?
Oh, I thought you did. I thought you were the spokesperson. Yeah, Fotofoto started doing workshops again last month with Tony Monaco's great workshop on image transfer, which was a tremendous success. We're definitely going to have him back doing some more of that style of photographic process. But this month, we're doing a special workshop on one of our members is a longtime resident of Cherry Grove out on Fire Island, that she's going to do a tour. And like everything else, and so it's scheduled for some end of September, the 26th. And it's the afternoon, I think it goes from 12 to 4. Everybody meets at the ferry terminal in Sayville and spends with their bag lunch, which we should bring. Everybody, after the ferry, everybody meets on the dock for a short talk, then it's a walk over to Rhonda's residence over there, where she's going to give you an overview, and then spend a couple hours wandering around Cherry Grove with all of her insider tips on the ins and outs of Cherry Grove and what there is to do and photograph especially. There's a lot of details over there if you've never been. After that is over, it's basically they're going to be free time and until you get the ferry back. And it's also a great opportunity if you stay late, have dinner there with wonderful restaurants, or stay for the sunset, which probably be, I think it's before 7 o'clock by the end of September. So I think it'd be a great workshop to do. And all these workshops are mainly fundraisers for us. So they're helping to keep the door open and pay the bills. So please sign up if you have a chance. The next workshop, we're trying to do one a month. I'll be doing one in October, my little studio tabletop workshop. More details to come in October. But the one we're doing right now is Rhonda's, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does. So.
And we have other workshops in the works as well, where there's possibly a street photography workshop sometime in the future. Many other workshops. We may hit up Pat Beary for a workshop. She she has lots of talents. But thank you very much, Eileen. Before we start, in more introductions, if you can please mute yourself, because even a simple tap on your desk or a cough will take over the screen. And I'll try to remember to do that as well. So maybe if we could just kind of do some quick introductions. Paul? Paul?
So I'll unmute myself
Yes,
now.
thank you. Thank you, sorry.
I just muted myself. Okay. Yeah, so I'm a creative director. I've been working in the business about 40 years now almost. Worked for places like the NFL and McGraw-Hill for many years, different design studios. And anyway, this is my first foray into really exhibiting photography. I had exposure to a darkroom since 1973. I was just doing the math in my head. 4th grade, okay? And had a darkroom at home and took some photography classes in art school. And, I've always done it on the side and still, it's just pleasurable to do on the side. And that's what I've been doing. So anyway, it's just nice to be part of this exhibit and nice to see you all tonight.
Thank you. Scott? Scott, unmute yourself.
I just did. Thank you. Hi, I'm Scott Schneider, and I exhibit under the name Toxic Nature Studios. I do environmental photography of very macro shots of like trash and nature, and even some rusted textures. I also do some trash sculptures. It's my hope that my photography will help, get people to notice the world around them and, maybe try and do a little bit better for the planet.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just gonna, Lynn? Unmute yourself.
Oh, there I am. It wouldn't work. Hi, everybody. I'm Lynn Sudler. I'm just a graphic artist, art director, whatever. I've been doing graphic arts for years, and I do photography for myself, and I'm trying to get into it a little bit more. I don't know, I'm trying to get my feet wet, even though I've been doing it forever. Just trying to expand a little bit, do a little more fun stuff with it, and that's it. I don't have much to say about myself.
Thank you. Just a real quick show of hands, guys. Who is an exhibiting artist who was in the show? Most of the people here. Okay, great. Sue Biggs?
Thanks. I'm Sue Biggs, and I'm from Soldotna, Alaska. So I have never made it to any of the openings. I'm thrilled that you're doing this today so I can see your faces and connect with you. I'm actually a professional musician here in Alaska, so photography is something I've been delving into just for about the last 10 years. And I think street photography and nature photography are probably my primary interests, but thank you for having me in this show. It's been wonderful.
Thank you very much. Russia, please tell me how to pronounce it correctly.
You got it right the first time, Rucha.
Russia.
Yep. Hi, all. I'm Rucha, and I'm from California. So yes, I haven't experienced the hurricane, but we have a lot of smoke here right now. I'm actually a software professional, but I'm an artist by passion. I usually do paintings and drawings, and photography is an additional thing that I'm adding to my portfolio. And this was my first photography exhibition. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Is it Moti?
Hi. Yeah, it's Moti.
Moti.
I'm here in Huntington. I just love to take photos. I've mostly been doing it in recent years on my iPhones. I usually get the latest and greatest of them. It's not such a big deal because I work for Apple. I'm in, well, high tech, pretty much been my career, but photography has been my passion. And it's really the first time that I've actually submitted and selected to have my photo exhibited. So it was exciting to actually come to the gallery and see it on the wall. So yeah, great to meet you guys.
Congratulations. Thank you. Sylvia?
Hi, I'm from the Detroit, Michigan area, Royal Oak, Michigan, and I've been putzing around with my photography a lot in the last 3 or 4 years. And I do photo collage. I like to use a format where I'm putting 4 different images together to kind of tell an embedded story, to layer meaning. Usually what I photograph is just very ordinary stuff. I'm trying to find the extraordinary, you know, the neat, interesting aspects in the very ordinary, everyday items. So, and I'm enjoying it. My eye, I just see, I walk into a room and it's like, oh my gosh, I see stuff. You know, it's like mediums who like think they see spirits or whatever. I walk into a room and wow, you know, there's a shadow there, a shadow, whatever, a glimmer of light that probably nobody else is seeing other than me, because I now have my eyes so sensitive to all of that. So that's my story, and I'm very pleased to be part of the exhibit. Thank you, and thank you for putting this on. I appreciate that.
No, thank you.
Pam,
yes?
could you please tell me, I've got the poster in front of me, and it only has the last names of the exhibitors, and you're going by the first names. And
yes, it's, well, when we go, okay, I'll do that in the future.
Okay,
when we go through the slides, we'll be going through every image, and it will be by first and last name, and that was Sylvia Van Dyke, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mary Lore, who I have to apologize to first. Mary, I corrected the PowerPoint presentation. I had incorrectly spelled Mary's last name. It is now correct. It's now Lore, not Loff. So
thank you very much. That I appreciate it, because, you know, after I wrote my comment about my name is spelled with an R, not a T, you deleted the post, and I thought, oh my God, that's how she didn't want me to talk to correct her. She deleted the post. Oh. But you deleted the post for another reason, I realized afterwards. Yes, so I just joined. I apologize for coming late. Did you want me to say
I'll
something?
just get a brief introduction.
Oh, okay. So I'm Mary Lore, not Mary Lot. I live in New York City, but I have a home on Long Island also. I'm an artist. Well, we're all artists. I paint. I also create paintings and little sculptures out of wool. And I told Patricia Beary at the reception that I did not consider myself a photographer, but I refer to myself as a seeker of great images because I don't care about the equipment. I'm not interested in learning about the equipment. My husband is a birding photographer. He has these giant lenses. You know, I don't want to worry about all the terms. I just want the image, and I don't like carrying heavy stuff around with me. But after I told her that, I came home and I thought, well, that's not really being fair to myself. I am a photographer. I just don't happen to like the equipment. So there I am. I'm a painter, a wool artist, and a photographer.
Thank you. Kimberly Gerber, is that correct?
Yep. First and foremost, I'm an architect, a licensed architect in the state of New York. Architecture has sort of been, you know, a passion, and somehow photography just sort of slipped its way in there when I was an undergrad. And my dad is also an art teacher in Brooklyn. He's retired now, many years, but it's always photography and art has always been in my preview and growing up since I was a kid. So photography was just like a natural progression because I was using the camera to document sites and different ways to understand, you know, your site and your context when you're designing architecture. So it sort of just gradually became this tool that I used and just evolved in taking different types of images. So I was looking at scale and shape and texture and everything that you learned in architecture school. Everything is pushed into my photographs. This is also my first submission to a competition and first gallery show. So that was pretty exciting for myself. I've decided to move, you know, still doing the architecture, but, you know, wanted to see where the photography can take me and move me towards the future and see where it goes.
Thank you. Let's see. You'll have to help me out with the pronunciation here. Rust, unmute yourself, please.
Russ Tahir is fine. Russ, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Basically, my career has been in 3 chunks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. 3 chunks. It first started out in Igigik, Alaska, when I was up there working in the salmon cannery, and I borrowed someone's camera. Pictures turned out really interesting, so I started to get into it more in depth, and that phase lasted from about 1971 to 79. When I was in Chicago in the middle to late 80s, it went into more of a commercial photographer phase, where I was doing every kind of work, travel, magazines, fashion, corporate, et cetera, et cetera. When I moved to Rochester, and basically I started photographing anything that I really liked. And the digital camera, I'm really glad I'm no longer working on film, because I love digital cameras, because that allows me to see the image and make necessary adjustments right then and there. Whereas with film, you sort of have to take a whole bunch of shots to try and get everything that you like. And I got involved in sending my work out for exhibitions about 3 years ago. And so that's been fun. And I'm really glad that you guys did a iPhone or a Phone-Ography exhibit, because like I say, I try to take pictures all the time. And one of the things that I do is take a lot of pictures from the windows of airplanes, which is where the photograph flying to Frisco came in.
Well, thank you for participating. Thanks very
Sure.
much. Let's see, Pauline Chiarelli? Did I murder your last name?
Yeah, my maiden name of Bishop was a lot easier to say.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm a local in Huntington, have been here for quite a while, and I won't keep everyone. I really just love photography. It helps to express the things I see all around me, and I connect with many of the artists that were speaking earlier about the influence of light and dark and story, and how you can tell what you see. And so thank you for being, I really love this this gallery, and I'm really a fan of many of the artists that are members, and I find that I was very inspired to walk around this particular exhibit and see everybody's work. It was really wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Carol, and you could please pronounce your last name.
Oyukis.
Okay.
Carol Oyukis, yeah.
And there are two Carols.
Yeah? Oh, yes. Well, yeah.
There are two Carols, and I can't add myself to the gallery.
Eileen, do you see Carol Isaac?
I'm Carol Isaac. Do you see Carol Isaac?
No, we don't. Are you? Do you by any chance have your camera covered up?
Oh, look at that.
Okay. Welcome. Okay, so we have another Carol speaking first, and we'll come back to you.
I have more,
so much.
I have more vowels than you, so I'm going first.
Yes, just go ahead and mute yourself, Carol Isaac, for a minute.
Yes.
Or just don't talk for a second. Okay, thanks. And Carol, could you go ahead and continue?
I'm actually I'm a working artist, and have been for many years. And you know, for me, photography is something I've always used as a tool to take me somewhere else. I do a lot of photo montage, and I'm incorporating other elements into the photography to sort of take me into a different conversation. I think that a lot of times when we go out looking at landscape, I do a lot of nature photography, a lot of landscape, and to me, there's always another story. And so what I shoot, I know is going to be something completely different at the end of the day. So your call, I just responded to it. My gallery sort of pushes me along to keep moving and keep exploring other calls. So that's why I responded to it. So thank you very much for including me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Carol Isaac, what I'm asking each person to do is just to give a brief introduction. Oh, you need to unmute yourself now.
Okay, I'm in Portland, Oregon. So unlike most of you, I haven't had dinner. This one image that you've accepted is part of a portfolio that I have developed during COVID called My COVID Refuge, and it's actually all about the Chinese garden that we have in Portland. And I was there as of March 1st, perhaps 3 or 4 times a week. I have two and a half seasons, maybe close to 3 seasons in the garden, because fall is beginning, and that portfolio has been reviewed. Parts of it have been shown in galleries. I have four things in galleries right now. One, Texas Photographic Society at a museum in Amarillo. The other, the Griffin Museum of Photography in Winchester, Massachusetts. The third is you? No, there really are 4. So I haven't kept proper track. In any event, I photograph every single day. I use an iPhone and I use a large camera, but the large camera I use less of the time. because I always have the iPhone with me. And I'm just thinking about upgrading my 11 to a 12. What do you think? Do all of you use a 12?
Wait for 13.
Someone said wait for a 13.
Yes, you're waiting for, so in September, we're supposed to hear about a 13.
Well, thank you very much for participating all the way from Oregon. And before we go to Susan, who is another member, I don't know who fstop@gmail.com is. Are they just watching? Eileen, was that somebody who was not, didn't just wanted to watch from a distance?
I don't know.
I'll take that as a yes. Okay, so, and last but not least, we have another one of our photographers from our Photo Gallery Collective, Susan Tiffin.
Hi, it was a beautiful show, and I wanted to see all the different photographers. It's so interesting to me. I have an iPad I use. I don't use my phone much, but I have all the kids, my grandchildren, everybody. Nobody's using a camera much anymore, you know, in that generation. So it's really interesting to me. I've had a camera in my hands all my life. The last 20 years, I was using Photoshop at work, got a digital camera, and that was it. Now it's photography the way I do it now, you know, lots of nature and anything that catches my eye. You know, photographers and artists see the world differently, and we capture it. So it was a great show, and it's wonderful to meet you all.
Okay, thank you. Did I miss anyone? All right, what I would like to do, well, I will say just one thing about myself. I do shoot with an iPhone sometime. I shoot with a Mark 4.5D a lot of the time too. And like, you know, who is it that said the best camera that you have is the one you have with you? And that's the truth. And quite frankly, with today's camera phones, I think that's a more accurate name. They're really cameras that make phone calls, not the other way around, because of the abilities that they have. And I'm going to just do a real brief introduction to fotofoto so that we can get on to having Patricia talk about the show itself, because she really is a master of using the camera as a very creative tool. Photo Gallery is a not-for-profit photographic collective, and it's made up right now of, I think we have 20 photographers in our group now. And it is, people are juried into the collective. One of the most, I think, one of the biggest benefits to being part of the collective is the opportunity for you to discuss your work and other people's work as a community. It's just lots of awesome opportunities that occur when we're selecting work, when we're hanging shows, the works that are put up by each of our members. Let me backtrack. Each member has the opportunity to hang one solo show per year, and then to participate in up to 8 group shows. We have a new group show that just opened yesterday. In addition to that, we have, keep your eyes and ears open for this, we have a national photography competition the prospectus for that will come out in October. We're still looking for a juror for that. And then the show will happen in January. It's always an outstanding show. We have other competitions. I won't go into detail right now, but we have your best shot. We have your best shot winners. So you can please check our Facebook, Instagram, and our website for anything that's coming up. It's fotogallery.org is our website. Our Facebook page is Photo with lowercase letters. There is another one out there that has an uppercase F, and it's not us. It's kind of anyway, just go to the lowercase ones. So that said, we were very, very fortunate to have Pat Beary as our juror, and she put together a phenomenal show. There's been nothing but lots of compliments while the works were up. Pat is an inventive fine art photographer and an accomplished art educator. She's from Long Island, on New York. She owns a BFA from Long Island University, and her photography is very strongly influenced by her fine art background. She aligns herself with the pictorialist photographers who took the medium of photography and reinvented it as an art form, placing beauty, tonality, and composition above creating an accurate visual record. You see her work, you'll see that she speaks to that beautifully. Her photographs are painterly and abstract, using camera, post-processing, and contemporary alternative process to deconstruct and interpret rather than create images that solely represent. As a member of Soho Photo Gallery in New York City, Pat exhibits her photography in both solo and group exhibitions, and she holds a position on the executive board. She also exhibits regularly at Alex Ferrone Gallery, which is out on the North Fork of Long Island in Cutchogue. Her works have been featured in group exhibitions in the US, in Italy, in Spain, and Japan. And she is a recipient of a Julia Margaret Cameron Award. Was that for the figurative?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you have to go to her website. It's just gorgeous. It is a beautiful, beautiful series. She has retired from a 30-year career as an art educator and fuels her passion for teaching by working with image factory workshops. You can Google that, or she will give us the website so that you can look that up, where she takes part in introducing photographers to contemporary alternative process techniques in photography. So please join me in welcoming Pat.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited because I got to meet so many people at the in-person reception. But of course, so many of you are not from the area. So it's just so exciting to be able to talk about your work with you. You know, as you sit as a juror and you look at, it was well over 400 pieces that came in. And you try to decipher and, you know, look at things and to see the faces that go behind those images really makes a huge difference. It was a difficult jurying process because the works were strong. I would say my motivation, because I embrace, I'm an iPhone user. So let me, before I talk about that, always get the newest technology. iPhone is traditionally upgraded every fall. If you're I'm assuming an iPhone user, but I have the 12 Pro Max, and I'm on the program where you're basically renting the phone and you get a new phone every year because I want the latest technology. So if that could be part of your routine, I strongly recommend it. And right now, the coolest part about that is that the new iPhones shoot RAW. Before this, I was using Lightroom mobile on the iPhone to be able to shoot a RAW image. But now the native camera is actually doing a little bit better job. You know, I just did a Zoom call with two really premier iPhone photographers, Karen Kleindienst and Dan Burkholder. And they both said use the native camera on the newer iPhones and use their raw imagery. So what that means for those of you who might not be familiar is that you have an untouched file. So a JPEG is always throwing away some of your pixels. meaning, you know, you have a diminished sized file, and especially what you can do in the highlight areas and the shadow areas. There's more information in a raw file. So if you get used to working with that, it makes a huge difference.
Just interrupt you for 1 second. You might want to make note of those names: Dan Burkholder, Karen Kleindenst. Karen was our juror for our last national show, and Dan Burkholder was a juror for ours for the show prior year. Look them up if you have any questions about what a camera can do. Besides looking at Patricia's and Pat's work, look them up.
What is Karen's last name again?
Can I ask a question?
Karen's last name again?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question of Pat. Can you explain that native raw image again? It's only going to be on the 13, or is it on the earlier?
It's on my 12. I know it's on the 12 Pro. I think if you had a 12, it actually came out as one of the upgrades. You know how your phone upgrades automatically every so often? Well, when I bought the phone, it did not have raw capability, but now it does. So it was part of one of the upgrades that came through on the 12.
And you find it in the settings section?
It's actually, it's right on the screen. Let me just take a look and I'll be able to tell you.
And I think a Samsung can also take raw.
Can you see this? There. All right. So it's right, let me point. It's right there. It says raw.
Okay.
And it has a line through it. If you tap it, it now doesn't have a line. Can't get this aligned with my camera. And it doesn't have a line through it. And I would be shooting raw now in this.
Okay, I guess the 11 doesn't have it then.
It may not have it. No, it may not have it.
Okay.
We
Thanks for the info.
We could talk about this a little after the slideshow
Sure.
also, because
Sure.
I will give you some input about how I shoot raw with my iPhone 11 Pro Max. I do. Okay.
Oh, good.
I'll talk about that.
And the way you can do it is to have Lightroom Mobile on your phone. And there's other apps also. There's other apps that allow you to do it. But Lightroom Mobile is great for shooting raw, and until 2 months ago, that's what I was using. So, but you know, let's go back to what so many of you said. I am not a camera snob at all. Yes, I have other cameras, but it's not about the equipment. It's about your eye, it's about your vision, it's about the story you want to tell, it's about your unique view of the world that you're capturing. And unless you need to print a billboard, the size file that you are capturing with your phones these days is absolutely fine. You know, you need more pixels to be able to print larger. Of course, lenses are important, focus is important, you know, all of those things, but you can do all of that on a phone. And if it gets you moving creatively, that's all that it really needs to be. So as I chose your images, I think what I tried to show off was a range of what I feel the iPhone does the best. You know, being that camera that you have with you all the time, it enables so many of you see abstractions so beautifully, you know, and because we see images with our eyes all the time, whether we have a piece of equipment with us or not, you know, as artists, as photographers. And I think it's so interesting that so many of us, including myself, have a background in the arts other than photography, whether you're, you know, a designer or an architect, you know, a creative director. You're using the elements and principles of art all the time, and that's what you're bringing to your images. So let's talk about the images.
Let me share the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so Sylvia is here. Do you want me to speak? Do you want to go through them all, or do you want me to speak like as we come up? What do you think, Pam? Unmute yourself.
My suggestion, and guys, the rest of you, please feel free to join in, would be to speak kind of like you did at the reception about the work. And,
Okay.
you know, particularly, specifically about the people's works who are here joining us, and maybe a little bit more briefly about the pieces that where someone is not here. All of they're in alphabetical order, so the winners are not up front.
Okay, no, that's all right, because as the people were speaking, I had my little chart and I was writing people's names down, so.
Okay, I do want to just interrupt and say one thing here, that folks, please feel free to ask questions or make comments in the chat, and I will be monitoring it. And if, as they come up, I may occasionally interrupt Pat to convey those thoughts to her. Okay.
Sure. And to be honest, Pam, I don't mind if we just keep this a conversation all the way through. If people have a question, ask it while we're looking at the piece. Yeah, it works for me.
I prefer that too. Okay, great.
Okay. So Sylvia is here. So it's great to meet you. You know, the pieces that you had in that you had submitted were all of this style. I love the creativity here. That you're seeing color, you're seeing repetition of those windows, and putting it together in the quad makes it even that much more interesting. I don't know if they were all shot at the same time, but I'm assuming that they were. And what I like is that each quadrant has its own unique qualities that keeps you interested. It lets your eye move through the piece so nicely. And I especially find the color palette really, really fascinating. So it's a great, great piece. And I'm so glad you're here to hear that.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
And I would say, you know, continue with the abstract work, because again, part of it, I don't know about you, but you know, sometimes it's deflating as we spend a lot of time on Instagram and look at other imagery, and you're like, oh, well, gee, I did something like that. We try hard to be unique. I don't know that we can be unique, but we can be personal. You know, so you know, keep on this theme and keep making your work personal. And I think you're going to find more success.
Very much. Appreciate it.
All right, and this is Paul. And Paul, I had the pleasure of meeting you, you know, at the reception. And this piece, this to me, again, in saying what the iPhone does best, this could have been what we would call, you know, a simple vacation shot, yet it's so much more. You know, you obviously had to wait for this shot, which is one of the most important things I think we have to learn as photographers, is to be patient, to kind of, you saw the light, you saw the impressiveness, you know, of the buildings, of the leaning tower in the back, of that single flag, and just waiting for there to be no people in the foreground, and then those two little figures, which kind of gives you the scale. And the color of the sky is I think what really grabbed me too, in that it has such an ominous feeling, yet the building just glows. So this is like, you know, your vacation photo on steroids. You know, this is when people look through a photographer's photography that they take when they're, you know, traveling. This is what sets our images, your image, apart from, you know, the Joe Schmo who is standing next to you, possibly taking the same picture. Tell me more about the sky, Paul.
Yes, Pat. Hi. It was nice to meet you also at the reception. So first you mentioned that I had to wait for the light, which is true because it was starting to happen and I wasn't sure if it would happen all the way, but I knew if it did happen, I'd only have probably a few seconds possibly. So I quickly had to run to the right spot. So that was like, hurry up and wait, you know, because I really had to get to the right spot for the shot if and when it happened. And it all came together. So yeah, and the sky was very ominous, as you see in the photo. You know, it came in quick, and you know, there was one little hole in the cloud that opened up, and it was just sort of like a spotlight on a movie set, you know, all of a sudden. But I only had a few seconds.
Exactly. But and isn't that what it's all about? Is you saw it, you ran after it, and you were there for that moment.
Right.
And it's really just a beautiful, beautiful piece.
And if anybody else has a question for either Pat or Paul or a comment, please feel free to join them.
Next.
Paul, I have a question.
Yes.
Was it about to rain? Was the sky that dark? Was it about to rain?
Yeah, it was, and it did.
Okay.
And it wasn't when I took the shot. So yeah, it was a
Take any
very
shots in
odd
the
moment
rain?
in time. It was very, very odd. Another thing I just want to point out, you know, is that parallax thing that happens with lens distortion and how the buildings were all kind of like angling a little bit in on my final shot, which I actually took away from the natural angle of the Leaning Tower of Pisa in the background. So I was able to, you know, after the fact, tweak that a bit, you know, and straighten those perpendicular lines, and it actually, you know, makes the Leaning Tower look more like it's leaning because not everything else is starting to lean either. So there were things like that I was able to tweak after the fact that I think really helped the shot as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, obviously. Do you process on your phone or do you process in Lightroom and Photoshop?
Well, it's funny. I've been working in Photoshop since it started. You know, I don't know how many years that is now, 25 maybe, I don't know. But I'm finding that what I'm able to do now in Snapseed in my pocket within a few seconds is unbelievable. And I was talking about that darkroom experience I had going back to the 4th grade. What I have in my pocket now is able to do that and more. And it's just like stunning. And it's not about filters and special effects. It's really just about tweaking things a little bit and really making the photo look more like it was supposed to look at the start, which the camera just wasn't able to quite capture.
Right. I always say what we do after makes the photograph look the way we felt. You know, when you capture an image, you had a feeling about that place. You know, the camera will capture what you saw, but it's what you do in the post-processing that gives you the feeling of the image and the place. So you did it really successfully here.
Thank you.
Next.
And Susan, I believe, is here. So that's a treat also. This is another one of those things that I felt in looking at it, that we experience all the time, our homes, our pets, our families, but how do you make that into a composition that becomes a photograph? And this is very successfully done for that reason. There isn't anything out of place. Excuse me. You know, the cat is in the foreground. I like that there's just that little bit of space between the edge of his body and the edge of the frame. Your eye, you know, follows back to the figure who's not facing us. And then the beautiful, even the little touches like the branches that are captured in the sliding glass windows, the clock on the wall, and even just by your position, like if you were positioned a little bit more to the right or to the left, the clock would have interfered with the chair and it would not have been as strong. So it's all those like minor details that have to align to have your photograph chosen in an exhibit like this or any exhibit. So think about that as you're submitting. You know, you've got to have an image where everything is composed beautifully. And then again, it's the story element here. Anytime you have, you know, pets or people, you know, you can imagine a little, just tell a little story about this. And I also think the choice of making this black and white increases that also. So you don't get hung up in details that aren't necessary. So, and even the lighting, look at the way the light just hits that one side of the cat's face and his eye. It just all comes together and tells a beautiful story. So Susan, thanks.
I love the way the light hits the chair and has that shadow that brings you right back into the composition below the clock there.
Yep, you know, there's just so many pieces of it that work so well.
Susan, did you have any questions or anything to add?
No, thank you though. Thank you for your comments. That helps so much to understand more about this piece. Thank you.
Yeah, composition is always should be one of your guiding factors in your pieces. Just to take, again, it's the same, just like the waiting to get the light right, or to the people in the image in the last piece. Just really taking that moment to shift a little bit left, shift a little bit right, and make sure that there's no interferences and no clutter. That's the other cool part. There's no clutter here, which I really like.
Thank you.
So thanks for joining us from Alaska.
Is Ralph here? I don't think so.
I don't think so. But I have to say, this is one of those pieces that when I saw it digitally, I liked it. But boy, when it was printed, the crossword puzzle was just popping right out at you as if you were right there with that newspaper. And again, I compliment, I think it was Paul from the gallery that did all the printing, and it was really, really well done. So yes, if you have the opportunity to get your prints, I would definitely grab them.
This image reminds me of one of the reasons why I loved your selections and the diversity so much, Pat. And one of the things that I love most about this is the point of view. And I think many of the pieces have very different points of view. And it's not just a difference in the subject matter, but like you said, the angle, that for me, this is almost a video point of view. But I felt that really added to the show.
Thank you. Oh, and I'm delighted that Carol is here.
Oh, yay.
Because you have to answer for us.
I know.
Burning question.
Yeah. So
why is the man and the boat upside down? I love that part of this.
You know, I shoot just the whole last couple of years. COVID and environmental issues, this insane, crazy storm last night. You know, I live on a sanctuary property, and so I'm immersed in this environment all the time. And, you know, it has gotten so, you know, everyone said, you know, nature is such a poetic, beautiful place to meditate in and to heal in. But the realities of nature too is very harsh. You know, it's ferocious. It's the last few years walking through the same neighborhood. I can't walk down my street anymore or walk through paths in the sanctuary that I used to, because they're so overgrown with invasive species and all of this. And so I think about being an uneasy traveler in this environment, in the COVID environment, in my natural environment, and, you know, just what's going to happen in the future. So I collect antique etchings, and I'm very much drawn to the stories of turn of the century, when in this country it was, you know, the brave new world, go west, develop the land, make a life out of what we have here. And Europeans were coming into town at the same time, and they thought we were completely savage and completely wild. So I'm very much, I think about Thomas Cole, I think about artists at the turn of the century and the stories that they were trying to tell about the environment. Of course, they're trying to get us to think about the magnificence and the awe-inspiring part of nature, so that we would have a reverence for it. And so I think those stories, those issues are the same today. So I shoot with the iPhone. I'm out every day, as someone else was saying, and I live in such a beautiful part of New York State. So, and it's funny to me how many of the parallels I find between situations that I shoot and these old antique vintage prints. And I've been thinking a lot about that. And so this was a whole series of pieces that I shot for my last show that closed just a couple of weeks ago. And so that's where this came about. And of course, as soon as I gave it to my gallery, he turned it upside down. I said, no, it's up, the guys, that's the way it's supposed to be. And it just confounded him. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah, I think it brings up a good point. I mean, again, you're supporting the piece with your narrative, but the narrative is in the piece already.
Yes.
And the idea that it makes us curious. We're asking, you know, is that part of the message that he's upside down? And it is. It's part of it. And you submitted, I think, 2 other very similar pieces, probably from the series.
Yes.
But there was something about this piece that I kept coming back to, you know, because of that. It was such a deliberate choice,
Yes.
and it made me want to know more. And if you can leave a photograph or any piece of art with wanting to know more, I think the artist has been successful.
Yeah, I agree. And it's the point we were talking about, Susan's last photograph with the cat. I mean, I think at this point, certainly in my career, if you haven't got technical, if you're not technically proficient, then in my opinion, you shouldn't be entering any of these shows. But the story is, for me, the most important part of it and the most intriguing. And I think that's what makes all of these photographs so compelling.
I agree. Thank you for sharing this with us, because it's really it's a wonderful piece.
And congratulations on your 2nd place award.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much, really, truly.
Moving on.
And I don't think Amy is here, and I don't remember meeting her the night of the reception. All photographers, you know, we shoot the light. And this is another one of these situations where that's the subject of this is the light. It's certainly the boy and what he's looking at and his body language, but without that strong, you know, natural, I assume it's somehow a natural spotlighting. Somehow the sun was possibly setting and she just caught this correctly. It made for such an interesting piece. And again, compositionally, the dark bottom where his body kind of melts into the blackness, and then the where the edge of the, I guess that's looks like a pit, or the edge of the ground meets the branches. You know, it's like 2/3 up. It's all those like little composition things that come into play that strengthen the story. I mean, the story is there through the imagery, but once you add that strong composition, it really makes its thing. So I am curious. I wish she was here. I'd love to hear the story about this. And this is another one. I have to say, when I was looking at them on screen initially, this just popped out for the color, the composition, the repetition. It is a little pixelated. I'm going to be honest about that. When I saw it as the print on the wall, I was a little bit surprised. So just as a learning for all of us, I think, you know, be very careful of how much you blow up an image or crop an image. If you're not used to printing, and I find with, you know, some, especially, you know, phone photographers, that you're not printing at home or having your images printed, you have to, if you're going to exhibit, you have to be ready for that. So, but it certainly doesn't take away from the really strong composition in this. But if you look, you can see it pretty clearly. I'm on a 27-inch iMac, so I can see this pretty well. Now, the bike tires are not as smooth as they should be. So, although somebody also mentioned, I don't know, give me your opinion. Do you think it's a filter?
Let me interject, because one of my email correspondence with this artist, they had said that they had deliberately put it through a filter to get this effect. It's not just pixels.
Oh, okay. There we go. I don't know that it needed it.
Pat, we did have a discussion about this, and several of us at the gallery, and I also thought, because I thought I recognized the filter, that might have been what happened. But it also, I think, taught us something, that photo gallery, and that possibly in the future on Cafe, we will make the size of our entry requirements higher. Mm-hmm. So that it has to be a higher res image.
Yeah, so that you can be sure.
Yes.
But again, you know, and we all love to play with filters, and somebody mentioned Snapseed, which is definitely one of my favorites. But when you have a strong image, you know, sometimes less is more. So just, you know, kind of just keep that in your thoughts as you do edit, and try not to over edit, because boy, this is a really strong composition, and it probably didn't need the filter.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You mentioned the cafe entries. I remember that there was a maximum limit. I remember that I was having difficulties with the couple of entries that I wanted to put in that were too large for what it allowed, and I didn't really know it at the time. How do I make them smaller in order to submit them?
If you go on Cafe, there actually is a link, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eileen, but I believe there is sort of a little mini tutorial to tell you how to resize your images. That's actually part of Cafe.
They have a tutorial, yeah. They don't really, but you have to go find it and read it. It's not.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Also, if you use Lightroom, it's really easy to create the file size that's required.
Yes, and even in Lightroom Mobile, because I recently did a submission, and my image was in my Lightroom Mobile, and I could export it at exactly the dimensions they wanted. So again, just look up some YouTubes, and definitely Eileen is right. There is a tutorial on Cafe, but I do think you have to hunt a little bit for it.
Yeah.
Right. Next.
If you have Photoshop, it's also easy.
Yes.
Also, just to let you know, Adobe Creative Max, like last year, they're going free on virtual. So they have really amazing classes about the mobile apps, and and so you can learn things on there and tips and tricks. And it's free. So it was really, really helpful. I did it last year and I learned so many different new things that I didn't know about before with the mobile apps.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing. Diane's, I don't think Diane is here. Again, I think this is one of those images that, we see things all the time, but how she placed the blue pot amongst the splatters, the composition is strong. It's again the quintessential kind of thing that our eyes see all the time, but because we have that phone with us, we can capture it. And I love the piece.
Yeah, I love the strong color. Next.
Oh, and Mucha is here. So, all right, I need to hear about this. What did you see? Did you see this? Here's the next question, and I don't think as photographers we all know sometimes we see something that seems so beautiful and we capture it, and you're like, oh, it's not quite what I thought. And other times we kind of see something, we capture it, and then we go, oh my goodness. And I feel like this might be one of those oh my goodness moments. So tell us.
Rusha?
Sorry, I was on mute.
That's okay.
Yeah, this was actually, we came across this and the first my eyes were directly looking at the sun rays, so it didn't really have this effect. And when I moved around a little and the sun hid behind that trunk, that's when the actual effect that was probably that seemed magical to me came through. So yeah, it was just shifting probably 4 or 5 meters, and the view changed completely.
Yeah, boy, did you capture a great moment. And is this little boy someone special? Is it a little boy or girl? I think it's a boy.
It's a boy. It's my son. I was like, please go stand there. Please go stand there. He wouldn't stand still, but I still got something out of it.
Yes, no, and his shadow. And again, I mean, Rucha spoke to something that's so important. Your feet as a photographer are not glued to the ground. When I was teaching high school, and I would tell the kids the best zoom lens is your feet, just, don't be afraid to move a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. And it just diffracted those sun rays enough to get this really extraordinary image. So timing is everything.
And I somehow have this attraction towards sun rays. I don't know. I just try to look at it from all possible angles.
Mm-hmm. I've done that myself. Like everybody tells you, of course, the books will say don't shoot into the sun. but sometimes you can get these really magical images, and again, that speaks to the beauty that somebody said earlier. You know, when we were film photographers, you know, it was those 24, 36 frames that we had, and you were very judicious with, you know, how many you took. But with digital, just be brave and jump in with both feet and shoot 20 or 30 images in the hopes of capturing a unique moment like this. So you really nabbed it on this one.
Thank you so much.
And I hope you print it and have it in your home.
Yep. Thank you.
And Pauline, we spoke at the reception. Again, it just one of those moments, but all the stars aligned, or all the sunsets aligned, because each element in this image is just right. You know, the boy's foot has just left the bottom step. We see both arms, both legs. We see his profile. We see his little cowlick. The man that's underneath is not attached to the lifeguard stand. He's like a complete image. The people with the umbrella, each one separate. You know, sometimes it's something as small as that especially in silhouette, that you can't have too much overlapping or it becomes muddied and confused. But what we have here is everything in the right place. And you know, and it's so graphic and so clear, and even what we didn't speak to would be interesting. Pauline, did you crop this at all from the original, or are you doing?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that was one of my barriers to doing a better job. I have an iPhone SE 2020, which is the low-end model between the 11 and the 12. It functions like a camera and the brains of the 11, but it has one lens, and the digital zoom is awful. So what that means is I could not get to him fast enough, and I had to crop. This is probably about 20–25% of the frame that I took. And so I just couldn't get there, or I had to stop and grab it and see what I could do to stop it. But I just loved watching him figure out that he could get higher, and it was just, he was just screaming the whole time he was there. It was great. It was a great moment.
Yeah. It's always worth the risk. It's always worth the risk of trying to get it. And really, you know, it's a little soft on the edges, but not in a way that is taking away from the feeling and the image itself.
I was hoping the story would be stronger than the craft.
Yeah. But that is again, if you have you know, the multiple lenses on the phone, it does play a role. But even at that, you're not getting, you know, an extreme zoom that you would with, you know, a regular camera lens. But it obviously it works. And I also love in this the really low horizon lines. I think we all have to be careful with horizons, where we put them. You know, try to avoid getting them smack in the middle of your page. And I think this being really low, it has the interest. And of course, again, the sunset was just perfect. That one little sliver, it really kind of, for me, it like pushes him up into the frame by having the horizon low. So it really makes it very successful. And I like your title, Magic Climb.
Thank you so much.
All right, show of hands. Who hates titling?
Oh my God. Pauline, everybody, I wanted to say that Pauline's shot reminded me of something too that I wanted to share. And it's one of the things that, I mean, I have to admit, I still love my big camera, but I do shoot a lot with my phone too. And one of the reasons that I love having the phone nearby, but with a shot like this,
And this is, you know, the big advantage over film is, oh my God, burst mode is like sent from heaven. You know, burst mode, you can just shoot the daylights out of it and go, if you're shooting in high enough res, you can go in and pick out exactly what you want. And I find that also to be, if you've got your shutter turned off, people who know me know that I shoot all the time. And even with people, if I'm shooting for people, I have a conversation with them first, and then I'm shooting from then on without kind of like with people not knowing. But this kind of shot becomes a little easier when you're shooting with burst mode too. But this shot, Pauline, it's almost as if you had him stand where you wanted him to.
I wish, yeah.
I know, it worked out beautifully.
I was just so lucky SOB that night. I loved it. I love being there.
I don't believe Mary is here. But again, and boy, I would love to hear the backstory here because I happen to love abstract photography, so this really appealed to me. And I don't know whether it's multiple exposures put together, but the light, the composition, the darkness of the edges, the limited color palette, the feeling of almost that it's like torn paper. Like I said, I would love to hear more about the story, but I really felt it was a great piece to be included in the show.
I'm going to interrupt here also to say that those of you who would like, please feel free to put either your website address or your email address or any of those in the comments you would like to share with anyone else. Okay.
Again, this is another one, my love of the abstract. You know, I think for me, it's what I see all the time. You know, whether it's in nature, in, you know, in a store, I just look for that composition. And there was something so kinetic about this with the repetition of the actual wood and then the shadows and then the organic element of the little green pieces coming through. It just works. The way you probably see me like I'm like pointing at things on the screen like you can see me. I love the golden kind of crest as it comes around on the left-hand side. It's a strong composition, and it's something that strong composition always draws me in. So great piece. And Moti is here. Now here was one, and I'm going to be really honest with you, just because I think we learn from, you know, when we submit and having the opportunity to speak as the juror. I loved, again, the narrative, the feeling of this. I was so wishing that the pole that's coming out of the little boy's head wasn't there. This is that experience where like, oh, you just shift a little bit over to the right and or actually probably to the left, and that could have changed. But it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't enough to not choose it, because it was, you know, the grandeur, especially in these tumultuous times that we're going through, and it being in Washington, D.C., and this little boy and thinking about history, it told such an incredible story. You know, and the idea that the little boy is almost a silhouette, similar to the boy on the lifeguard stand. But again, those are the kinds of things. And when you're shooting for the moment, I realize that, you know, sometimes it just doesn't happen. So it didn't detract from it enough, but those are the things to watch for. Modi, tell us about taking the picture.
So this is from 2017. Certainly tumultuous time and being in Washington during that time. And, it certainly was meaningful to me, and that the specific time was certainly meaningful for taking this photo and, trying to put myself in the little boy's head. What is he thinking? What is he aspiring? It was taken with an iPhone 6S, many iPhones ago. It wasn't the best resolution, and I was a little bit concerned that it wasn't going to come out well in the print, but it actually did. I was pleasantly surprised when I actually saw it hanging. And one other thing, I did try to turn this photo into black and white, and it actually looked nice, but I do prefer this to the black and white version of it.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I like the warmth of the natural tones of the marble. It really works. I think the other thing that, again, you'll hear me speak so much about composition, those two columns, you use them beautifully because it's that framing that brings us in onto this very, kind of an intimate moment when you think about it, like you just, like you said, trying to be in this little boy's head of like, oh my goodness, that's Abraham Lincoln. I read about him in my history book. And the columns really add so much, that it's framed on each side like that. So really good composition there.
And I totally agree. I haven't actually paid attention to the, kind of coming out of his head. But I do think that if I moved it to a little left to the little right, it would have completely, something would have gone missing. So I don't know if it would have been possible, but we'll never know.
Yeah. But those are the things to watch for,
Right.
as you do shoot, on occasions that you have time, and you don't, when you're trying to get these moments, you don't always have the time to do that.
And I'll say one more quick thing. The photographer that inspired me the most, this gentleman called Cartier-Bresson.
Yeah.
If you know his work,
I love him. Yeah, totally inspired by
capturing
him.
a moment like this
Mm-hmm.
is kind of like, in trying to do the same.
Yes, the decisive moment. He coined the phrase, and so much of his work is about that. And you were successful here.
Yeah, except Henri did a lot of staged decisive
Oh, he did he?
Let's not forget that.
Modi,
Nothing wrong with that.
Modi, am I?
Yeah, Moti.
Am I unmuted?
I can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. One of the things I really love about this shot is that, and this is kind of where I come from in my own work sometimes, is I do think about what the child must be thinking about in looking at the works, but I also think about what you must be thinking about, because I get a sense of your perspective and your point of view, and it's as if I could also have the camera in my hands as a viewer and kind of get inside your head as well to get, it gives me a good feeling of that this wasn't something that you just did on the spur of the moment. There was obviously a lot of thought put into it, and I like the fact that I feel your perspective as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I agree with that. Absolutely. It's beautiful.
And Kimberly, I think, is here.
Yeah, the night of the gallery opening was my birthday.
Ah.
Awesome.
Again, I feel like this does everything that the iPhone does so well. Number one, it captures skies, you know, in a really incredible way. And it was about the scale. This wouldn't have been the same image at all without that figure on the rock. Was this staged?
No.
or you just came upon him?
I literally had, I was in California. This is going back a couple years ago. Literally just pulled up to the parking lot, just grabbed my phone first because I had my digital camera with me and just was checking to make sure I could park there. And it was cloudy. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to stay here. Let's see what happens. And literally was at the top of the bluff and looked out, and the sky just poked through. It's, you know, being in the moment, observing, seeing him like walk there. And I mean, I had another photo of him. It's not as good. And he was like walking away and off it. And it's, yeah, he needs to be there for the scale. And I followed him with my eyes to see where he went to sit on the beach. And I went down to him and I said to him, I have this most amazing photo that I have to share with you. I'm like, I know it's you because I saw you walk over here. And it was just when airdrop started. So I airdropped him the photo and he was just like, holy cow, he goes, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that moment. He goes, that is a great photo.
Yeah, it just so many of the elements, even the, you know, there's the rock, and then there's that first little ridge of a wave that's coming around it so perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, and certainly the light, and you know, it's just, yeah, it was the moment.
Where in California is this?
This is Wyndham Sea Beach.
Is that Southern California?
Yeah, Southern California.
This is the kind of shot, though, to get a little technical with you, when I talked about the beauty of shooting raw. If this was shot raw, you would have had more ability to bring down the strong highlight in the center. You know, it's a little bit harsh. There's no there's no information in the pixels there.
Yeah, this is also using I think it was an iPhone 8, so it's even a little bit of an older phone. Yeah, that was my only.
But those are the things, as the technology gets stronger, that we're able, you know, to do.
Yep.
And I'm gonna say one other thing again. Because small criticisms, I'm hoping help. I wish the horizon was either straight or more crooked. That little bit of an angle makes me think, did she want it angled, or did she mean it to be straight and it wasn't quite straight? So when you think about horizon lines, make that commitment. You know, and again, I don't know how it would have looked cropped. I probably would have straightened it, because I like the serenity of it. So I think I would have, for me, I think I would have left it straight.
Okay.
But isn't that the beauty also, is that you can make a copy or a virtual copy and try it both ways.
Yeah.
You know, we have so much at our fingertips in terms of editing now, that can be done, you know, quite easily. But be careful with your horizon lines.
Yep.
And here's Ellen. I'm glad you're here by telephone. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, I had the delight of meeting Ellen, and I did choose this as the first place award. And
I don't.
Do you want to share the story?
Well, every Sunday, my late husband and I would go to a restaurant, this particular restaurant, and have lunch. And another picture of this series was in fotofoto maybe 6 years ago. And anyway, I just caught this moment where he was with this ice cream, and it resonated with me. I cropped it so it's a different proportion than most photos, but it emphasizes the twist. And the title of this is Do the Twist. And I don't know, it's one of many pictures, and most of my photos are very different than this, but I just thought this was quite special.
Well, this embodies what Pam was talking about. I think when I saw this, you know, I could picture who you were as the photographer. I could picture, you know, me sitting in your place, looking across the table at him. You know, because you have such a close relationship, that shines through in this image. You know, this is somebody who was very special to you. And I'm sure, you know, you shared with me that he had passed, and that to have imagery like this, you know, just that beautiful familiar face, and even that, he's kind of got this little smirk. It might have been something that you were very familiar seeing, but it's so natural. And it's a beautiful piece of his legacy and your legacy. So this is quite an incredible image.
Thank you. And my work is so completely different than this. It's very, I'm experimenting with all kinds of apps, and I've worked with disciples of both Mr. Burkholder and the woman you mentioned,
Karen.
and I'm just excited about my work and hoping to continue.
Well, we hope that you do. And again, I think the other beauty of this is the sepia tone. It's a warmth. The black and white wouldn't have been quite the same.
No, and the color just lost it.
Right, right.
And I couldn't deal with the color. I needed to make it solid, if that makes sense.
You know, it speaks to how many choices we make, whether it's in taking the image, in the editing. It's just this series of choices, and some we do as muscle memory because we're experienced, and you know, I can tell that, you know, everybody's out there shooting a lot. And then other things that we experiment with and figure out what works for us. But when it all comes together, that's when you have the first place award. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. But also cropping it by the peculiar situation emphasized the twist, which I really wanted to be the joke. And I'm all about making jokes with my pictures.
I want to compliment you, Ellen, as I think as photographers, as artists, whether you're painting, drawing, photography, whatever your medium is, I think we begin to make a leap in our work when we find the courage to share the intimacy that we've been able to portray in our images with other people. And this comes across, there's no doubt at all in my mind that, you know, it's obvious from the expression on his face that he felt entirely comfortable with you, and that you chose to share that with us is very rich and meaningful.
Who's talking, Pam?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Pam.
Oh, Pam. Well, but just remember, and this is for everyone, I've been fortunate enough to exhibit in the fabulous foto galleries exhibits for 6 years in a row.
Yes, thank you.
And the first time was another portrait of my husband with an incredible smirk on his face. And a very different full color, and it was based on an Andy Warhol quote that I had to address with another competition. And I'm so very grateful for this wonderful group of people who have embraced photography for everybody to enjoy and understand and share. And I'm just so happy. And thank you.
Thank you for participating and continue to participate. We'll look forward to new entries from you and from everyone else too. How are we doing, Eileen?
We're doing Pat. We're running along here.
Yeah. Well, I have an idea. Looking at my, I have the contact sheet. It looks like it's Carol's image and Mary and Lynn and Russ. Those are the people that are here.
Okay.
So let's talk about those and, just in case anybody has to leave.
Also mine. It's Scott from Toxic Nature Studios.
I see it. Yep, I got it. So let's do those, and then if we have time and people can stay, we can talk about some of the others. How's that sound?
Great.
Going off.
Okay, so here we are with Carol. Carol, I personally related to this because I was lucky enough in 2019 to travel to China. So this architecture, I was like, oh, that looks like one of the gardens I was in. So it's kind of fun to hear that this was in the US. And again, the composition just grabbed me, the shape of the opening in the building, then looking through to the wooden structure, the shadow, on the left-hand side, with that really geometric Asian feature about it. And then again, kind of mimicking the shape of the opening and the architecture is the organic plant in the lower left. So everything was just aligned beautifully. The idea that you didn't put the I don't know what to call it, the opening, the window in the center of the frame, that it's off to the right. It's a beautifully composed, and it's funny, it has the simplicity and the serenity of the place. So it's, you talked about going back here often, and it shows up in this piece.
I'm glad you just said that. I mean, I saw this and I thought it was like a sculpture hanging in front of a wall. But it's got that figure and ground issue where it switches back and forth sometimes. I just saw the window when you said it. So.
Right. It's like a positive negative effect almost.
Carol, I will tell you that Paul printed this more than once. The first time he printed, I looked at it and I said, Paul, you have to print that again. And
well, thank you.
Did not have this 3-dimensional and print it again so that it had this same fabulous sculptural quality that you see here.
Well, thank you very much for working to make it sing. Pat, this garden that we have in Portland is based on a scholar's garden in Suzhou, China. so that if you were in Suzhou, you actually saw gardens which were fortresses. They were scholars' homes. This garden has a pond in the middle. It's quite a remarkable place. So I've been working there since, fortuitously, since March 1st, 3-4 times a week. And I look at this window all the time, and I have never again seen that shadow. So I go at different times during the day. And I'll eventually put it on my website. Another piece from this series, this exact series, Mr. Burkholder juried into the Texas Photographic Society show. So I'm only telling you because of the connection of Burkholder and my pieces.
Well, you were very lucky to have such a beautiful place to spend your COVID time, because I'm sure your other imagery must be as beautiful as this.
Thank you very much. I was very lucky. My husband and I are travelers, so being confined has been a real trial for us, and being able to go to China as I walk into the garden has been an amazing gift.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Excuse me? Hello? Sorry.
Yes.
I actually was wondering, I'm unfortunately working, I'm attending on my camera, meaning my iPhone, and I'm running out of battery. So I was hoping that I could go next in case, because I don't want to have it die.
Okay. So
Thank you.
this is you?
This is me. I exhibit under the name Toxic Nature Studios.
Okay. Well, nice to meet you. And your real name is, I'm writing that down, your real Scott Schneider.
I'm the real Scott Schneider, yes. I feel like there are so many Scott Schneiders in the tri-state area that I had to come up with.
You had to come up with something. Well, again, this is one of those things that, somehow you saw this, and I like to think that it was because you had the phone with you and you were able to capture it. That kind of makes it so special, and why I've included it. And of course, it's one of those pieces that, when you first shoot it and oh, I got these water droplets, they look so great. But I think what the real key is, it's those individual reflections in every single drop that is so mesmerizing. It's like you're looking at a picture within a picture.
Well, I mean, actually, that's why it's called blurred signs. This picture actually is the exact opposite of what I usually do. I take very, very macro close-up shots of, trash and nature and rust and textures. And I don't use, I really shoot as I see it, small details, and I really don't use a lot of filtering. A lot of times I just brighten the color a little bit and darken the light, and just to kind of snap it a little more into focus. But that's really pretty much, I shoot as I see stuff, and that's what I do. And I don't really take advantage of a lot of the technology and things like that. I also, I don't always get the newest phone. In fact, I usually wait until my phone dies to get a new phone, because as somebody who is into the environment, I am trying to not be such a consumer all the time. So this photo was actually taken with a also an iPhone 6, I believe, in 2016 and 2017. And it's really the exact opposite of what I do, because it's what I did is I was driving with my family going to Broadway, and through my window of my car while it was raining, I saw a picture that said deport the Trumps. And this was at the time when there was a lot of stuff going on with the the border and different things of the policies that either he already had or he was going to have, because I don't remember if he had already been elected and in office or if he wasn't quite there yet. And so I took the picture. I went to the Broadway show and came home, and really the picture didn't come out at all. Like, couldn't see it, didn't look like anything. But in this particular case, I played around with it more than I would ordinarily. I cropped it quite heavily and came up with this. And what you actually see in the bubbles is the sign that I was trying to take the picture of. And I was really pleased with how it came out. I was very pleased that it was accepted into the exhibit here amongst all these great artists, and that's really the story of the photo.
Well, it's like I said, it's that repetition in each bubble that really caught and held my interest. And again, the simplicity of the colors, everything just fell into place. And even the background, the actual sign itself, how it divided the space just to make it more interesting. I think if there wasn't that geometry in the background, it would have not been as strong. So great job.
Thank you. Thanks. And also, when I first did it, because I cropped it so much, it was quite pixelated. So in this one particular case, I did have I was printing this for a museum exhibit down in Florida. I had a 46 photo exhibit that was supposed to be at the Coral Springs Museum of Art last year, but unfortunately it got rescheduled due to COVID. And so when we came upon this picture, I asked him to try and, touch it up a little bit so that it wouldn't look quite so pixelated. So anyway, well, thank you. And I'm going to stay on as long as I can before.
Good. I hope we don't lose you.
Okay. Have a good night, everyone.
They look like reptile eyes, like you would see an eye or like eye of a snake or that's what I'm sort of seeing.
Yeah, it does, because it almost looks like eyelids. I see what you're saying.
A good example of bubble photography.
Just raindrops.
Everyone that
it's really just raindrops on the car window. Couldn't even get that was actually the funny thing about it. I was trying to get my window down and the light was changing and I couldn't get it down fast enough. So I just took the picture as it was. It's a prime example of what you like to call on Instagram as accidental art. Hashtag accidental art.
I just want to say that over the years, I've art directed a few photo shoots where we were doing reflections and things. And one time it was a golf ball, and every divot in the golf ball reflected the studio and the camera. And it became a real problem trying to get that shot of the golf ball without all those reflections of the studio surroundings. So it's tricky at times.
You want to go to?
I think we have Mary's piece and Lynn's piece and Russ's piece.
Last name, they're in order. In last name order.
Mary is Mary Lore.
Lore.
And then, okay. So before this.
So this is Mary.
That's
So I had the pleasure of speaking to Mary at the exhibit. And the funny part of this is I knew when I saw it, I knew where it was. It happens to be one of the doorways that take you, I think, when you leave the rooftop at the Metropolitan Museum. And again, I feel like, you know, especially for an iPhone image, it's one of those things when sometimes you just see something. And I know I had to study it for a while because what we're seeing on the right-hand side is a mirror. It's a reflection of the door and the outside. And yet it's so curious that you see one vision through the left-hand side door and one through the right-hand reflected doorway. Again, all about composition, two round lights, the perspective of the ceiling and the floor lines, the tiles in the floor, and then of course the city scene outside. So it's one of those moments that you turn and you see something, and because we have these wonderful contraptions with us, you captured something quite special. Mary, do you have something to add?
Not all that much, because you described it perfectly. Before the pandemic, when you go to the rooftop, you take the elevator up, and when you leave, you take the elevator down. During the pandemic, or after, you know, the museum reopened, this was taken last October, so the museum had just reopened for about a month. It was my first trip back there. Anyway, so the new procedure was you take the elevator up, but when you leave, you're forced to go through this rickety little door, down this nondescript hallway that happens to be mirrored, and then down these stairs. You know, it's not normally for visitors. It's not particularly attractive. It's very utilitarian. Anyway, so I walked down the hallway, and for some reason I stopped and turned around to look at the door, and I saw this, and, you know, had to take the camera out and take some pictures. And then I decided that black and white really made it work much better than the limited amount of color that would have been in the shot.
I want to share how knowing the backstory can change someone's perception so much of an image. This is a beautiful image no matter what, but I didn't recognize that this was from the Met roof. And I've been in this spot many times. And now remembering walking back from this and seeing the multiple people in the behind and the front, it's like a whole different experience of the image. It's a wonderful image. And we spent some time talking about this and arguing about whether or not it was a mirror.
That's nice.
And again, you know, whether you waited or I know that the day I was on the rooftop, and it was post-COVID also, and using this weird, you know, entryway that you described, there weren't a lot of people up there. It was a cooler day. So I think the emptiness, which is not something you often get when you're in the Met, you know, is a big part of this. And then also, you know, in terms of composition, the idea that it's symmetrical, but not quite. The left side's just that little bit bigger than the right, which strengthens the composition so much. Had that doorway line or the hinge line been right down the middle, I don't think I would have felt as strongly about it as I did just having that a little bit to one side. So as you're taking your images and as you're working in them in post-processing, be really aware of your composition because it strengthens your piece so much.
Anita Seltzer, our third place artist. Should we go to her?
Sure.
We'll try. I'm having trouble. Okay.
I don't think she's here though.
Yes,
Is she in? Oh, she is?
yes, yes.
Well, I'm thrilled.
She's our mystery f-stop artist.
Oh, that's it. Okay. All right. What this piece? Again, I love the color. I'm assuming that it was natural. You know that just these golden hues were so strong, and it was just that sense of mystery with the two figures reflected. And as you look at it a little bit more closely, it looks like it's maybe some kind of a refrigerator case or a something that would hold cakes, or I don't know. I don't need to know what it is.
Pat?
But it's the reflections of the figures, and then the kind of monotone quality to me that made it, you know, so strong. And any time I think when you have a figure in an image, it already elevates the narrative. You know, you're kind of wondering, what is it that's going on here?
Pat, I'm
So-
going to read to you what she wrote in the comments.
Sure.
Apologies. I'm visually shy. I'm a photographer / printmaker, intaglio, etchings, especially interested in historical preservation and ephemeral transient images, which informed my submission to this exhibit.
Okay. It's funny that I think it's funny working in kind of the monotone hues would fit with the idea that she's in intaglio printer, you know, because you're not used to, you know, you're working in value and tone rather, you know, than color and basically color to define your image. So I could see how this fits with her other art. And again, it's one of those pieces, you know, when we look at, it's not quite that edge of that case is not quite in the center by just being a little bit over to the left. And then I question, is that the same reflection or is that two different people? It evokes questions. And if you can create work that evokes some questions, I think it also strengthens your work.
Anita, can you answer that?
Congratulations, Anita, on your third place.
You can be shy, it's okay. Your images speak for you.
Beautiful. Anyone read what you just said on our chat?
She didn't reply. Oh, wait, hold on.
Just replied to everyone.
Yes, natural. One of the mystery. Stood and waited for someone to walk into the frame. Thank you for your graciousness. 2 years ago, a photopolymer intaglio, labor intensive, and a photograph were elected by Dan Burkholder for your gallery, also an etching into Soho, one person. Thank you very much for elaborating on the piece. I love the transient nature of the piece as well.
Who do you want to go to?
And then I think there's Russ and Lynn, they're on either side of this piece. So Russ, you spoke about enjoying to take images from a plane, which I think we've all done. But this one is really quite special. And it's funny how often the color can be distracting. I think it's the color that really attracted me to this. If I was making a painting, these would be colors that I would choose. They have a certain muted quality about them, and they work so well together. And then again, it's like this most beautiful abstract, just the way the organic lines run through it, you know, some thicker, some thinner. It really, it transcends being a photograph, you know, which is something I aspire to in my work. You know, Pam mentioned in the beginning, I like things that kind of cross those boundaries. And I think that's why this appealed to me so much. Are your other images that you've taken from planes as beautifully colored as this?
They're all different depending on what the landscape is.
Mm-hmm.
And with this one, basically, you know, shooting through a plane window is pretty awful, to be honest, because the window is usually fogged over. You know, the plastic is all weird, especially as you get higher up on the frame. So what I had to do with this one was basically use an Adobe Photoshop dehazer.
Yes.
On the top portion of the image, and then do the little bit darkening up and all that. But it's actually a really simple shot, flying over, taking a whole bunch of pictures as I fly over the southern part of the bay, where they have this salt, whatever they're called, and the marshland, and the portion of the bay that still exists back there.
Russ, this is the Bay Area. You were flying out of SFO or into
Flying
SFO?
into San Francisco, coming from the east. They always fly the same pattern. You know, as you, San Jose is a little bit to the left. That's the Carquinas, not the Carquinas, but the Dumbarton.
San Mateo grid?
Yeah.
Oh, the Dumbarton. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm from the area, so.
Yeah, that's the Dumbarton Bridge.
Beautiful.
But so like I say, you know, I'm taking shots as we fly over it. And then the Photoshop was basically pretty simple too. Just basically, I said, use a little bit of dehazer on the top portion and then darkening it, you know, darkening it up.
Well, it certainly all came together beautifully, and I get the color that really appeals to me. It's just so unique. I don't know that I've seen color like that out of an airplane window. So great job.
If you fly over those that area in San Francisco, that's basically how it's going to look like. But like I said, you're shooting out of a bad window, so you have to, you know, bring out what the color actually is.
What time of year was this one? What time of year?
I'm thinking.
Spring, looks like.
Can't remember. I have to look it up to see
No
what
problem.
the data says. Sometimes that's really cool about digital photography. You know, it gives you the time, you know, and all that. But basically, it looks like late afternoon in the summer.
Thank you.
And you said the other one was over here?
Lynn, there we go. Again, another favorite of mine as far as shooting with the phone is using the panoramic. And I think the choice of using it for this shot was just perfect. You know, the symmetry is beautiful. The sky, I love the contrast of the geometry of the headstones, and then the sky, the organic quality of the clouds. Actually, as I'm thinking about it now, I'm even curious. I assume that you just went in and desaturated all the greens, and you desaturated by color channels.
Yes.
No green grass.
God, it's so long ago, I don't remember. I use a lot of layers. I'm a Photoshop snob. They call me Fosho for short. So when I do something, I do it over and I do it over and over, and then I'll end up with 12 different versions, and each version has a bazillion different layers. But I probably, in the layers palette, I probably added a overlay or something or other to just make the red pop and the green go bye-bye. I wish I could remember.
That's okay.
I can go back in the photo and look.
I know. No, just, out of curiosity, but,
yeah.
And again, the technical part, we're probably all in different places in terms of our experience. So, it's nice to share a little bit of that, when we can. But the bottom line is what the image looks like when it's done and it's hanging on the wall. It just works. It really, it's so beautifully symmetrical too. If you've shot any panoramics, you know how difficult it can be to get it exactly as you want it, and not have the horizon line bend and all those quirky things. But this really, really works so beautifully. So I felt so strongly about including a panoramic in the show, and this one just highlights your thinking, the feeling of the place, and that whole military, the sameness of the headstones and the repetition of the flags. It really speaks very loudly.
I always see photos as movement, and it's something with this photo where the rose, I can't even explain it, but I see the movement. Every time I look at it, my eyes just get like mesmerized, almost like one of those optical illusions, like you see, like, wait a minute, is it moving? Is it, no, it's not moving.
Yeah.
To me, it just, when I first took it, I looked at it and whoa, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I bet if I was taking that photo, I would have seen some of it. I don't know that I would have seen those triangles going back immediately, as I was shooting it. But how strong they are here, and what an impact that has as far as you drawing you into the scene. It's so distinctive, and it's almost like this cool zigzag pattern that's happening in the background there.
And to me, it almost looks like sadly, it looks like a smile in the front. I almost see like a smile, like kind of like a toothy, and it throws me a little bit.
Yeah.
The strength of this photo for me is that, and I have a strong geometric feeling in my own work, but is that while the repetition and the movement and the rhythm and the fact that it's panoramic is all there and very strong, they're all secondary to the place. And you've used all those elements to, the repetition, what is highlighted for me is the repetition of the phenomenal number of flags and headstones, and that you very effectively have used all those various techniques to get to the message.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then also, once again, we talk about, like, sometimes the very purposely, there's that one little figure on the right-hand side, just kind of giving that human element, the element of life amongst, all these symbols of death. And that there's again, in the scene, I'm not seeing anybody else walking through the rows. It was, again, just the right moment of catching the solitude of it, except for that one little figure. Good choice.
Thank you very much. Thank you for including me in all this. Really appreciate it.
Oh, it was great. It was great to hear you speak about it.
Thank you.
We have another person?
Is there another person?
I think, according to my chart, and yeah, as people introduced, I was writing, I think we've covered everybody who is here.
Okay, I want to relay another comment from Anita. She says, by the way, Pat Beary has been particularly lovely and supportive.
Oh,
and once again, thank you for curating this show under difficult circumstances.
Well, it was a pure pleasure. All I can do is encourage everybody to keep refining your craft, whether it's with a new phone or with the phones that you have, and just continue to shoot. You know, some of you have said it. You know, I think it encourages us to shoot every single day, and to constantly be looking at those images, and looking for things in our everyday life. You know, we passed the one that was the windshield wipers on the car, and the water, and you know, we see all of those things on a daily basis. And I consider it, I said this when I spoke, I consider the phone my sketchbook, you know, and I am an artist in varied ways. You know, I have done drawing and painting and printmaking, you know, and you must sketch. So as photographers, you know, we must sketch, and to me, the iPhone gives us that ability. It's our sketchbook. It's our way that we try things out, and we can be a little bit fearless and hopefully adventurous and get some really great imagery.
Well, I want to thank you again, Pat, first for being our juror, and also for both here and at the gallery reception for giving such in-depth, really insightful comments and promoting such discussion about the work. I think people have really loved that. And thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. I think, and Pam, you can relate, you know, we've both been teachers. It's part of the process, you know, talking about your work, critiquing your work is the way we grow. So having, you know, even tonight, just to do this, you know, you didn't need me. We could have just had a discussion of the work. It's just a fun thing to do as artists. And it's something that we should probably try to engage in as often as possible. So thanks, Pam, for doing this.
Yeah.
And Eileen.
Thank you very much. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, there is a version which the corrected version with Mary Laura's name on it to music is not out there yet, but there is an IGTV version set to music of a slideshow. And Eileen, our technical wizard, will be editing this gallery talk, and it will be on our Fotofoto Gallery YouTube channel. So you can share it with people. You can look at
Minimally edit
it.
Minimally edit it.
I have a question. Do you think you can send an email out with everybody's social media handles and website addresses that we've typed on the chat tonight?
I think, well, yes, if people want it to be shared, put it on the chat. And is the chat saved automatically, Eileen? Do you know?
We're saving the chat transcript, yes.
Okay, so if anybody wants to share your social media handles, your website, whatever you would like, please put that in the
I
chat.
think they're already there.
Okay, great.
I've seen a whole list. That's why I asked.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, there's quite a few in here.
Wonderful.
Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because that will be fun. You know, it just, I'm constantly inspired. It doesn't, you know, whether you've been photographing for 2 years or 50 years, it just, you know, we work with each other and we get ideas from each other. So thanks for being part of this.
I love these Zoom things since we hear the story behind the image, and it adds so much. And with Zoom, everyone can hear it. It's not just 3 people gathered in a corner talking.
Well, but this, I think it was particularly wonderful in this, in the Phone-Ography show, because, well, Pat picked 30 out of 454, I think, images. We had, I believe, about half, maybe 11 or 12 people, a little bit more maybe, were from different states all across the country. And then the remainder were from throughout New York State and Long Island, but a huge amount of people were from other places. And this is the opportunity where we had to get together. One of the things that we did this time a little differently, and I know it made the gallery talk a little longer, but I personally really enjoyed hearing a little bit about each of you personally in the beginning when you introduced yourself. It gave me a little different insight to your images, and also a little different take on what, you know, as Pat was speaking as well. I want to remind you that, or to encourage you, please, to go to our fotofoto gallery Facebook page, to our website, to our Instagram page. I post pretty regularly about everything that's going on. I do have more images to post from the actual reception. We had so many things happen at once that I haven't gotten all of those images posted yet, but I will. Next weekend, if you happen to be close by, on Sunday, September 12th, from 12 to 5, we will have an all-day reception. Kathleen Massey has a solo exhibition entitled Traces, which is quite beautiful, quite fascinating. She has been working with ICM in camera movement, beautifully done. Ralph Masulo has a solo show called Distant, and it's a very poignant essay on his experiences during this period of quarantine. In our back gallery, we have 17 of our members in a really exceptional show as well. Very divergent perspectives, and the reception will be for that show as well. So if you're around, please stop by. Thank you so much. Again, do my channel 21 pitch here. We are a not-for-profit, and all of our dues from our members and all donations go towards paying for our rent and our utilities and keeping us vital and alive in the Huntington Village community. So thank you all for being part of the gallery talk and for submitting to our shows and making such a solid show. It's just, people have loved it. A lot of people came in more than once to see this show. So very beautiful show. Thank you so much. Anyone have anything that they want to add? Oh, okay. All right. Be well, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Eileen. Everybody. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.